As nations prepare for recovery from the prolonged COVID-19 pandemic, it's clear that the only way forward is green. Governments, businesses and members of civil society need to join hands fostering partnership for green growth and global goals in order to achieve carbon neutrality and the transformation of their economies into sustainable growth models for across all countries and for all members of society, the goal really being leaving no one behind. The P4G Seoul Summit for Green Partnerships kicked off on Sunday as a multilateral initiative to make these kind of collaborations happen. To discuss the world's push towards a greener future and the role South Korea can play as the host nation of the summit, we speak today with Robyn McGuckin, Director of Partnerships for P4G and a specialist in strategizing clean energy, climate, water and sustainability across public and private sectors. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Joining from my home office, I think must be normal these days. Great to see you.
That indeed is the norm, and of course this summit is being held on screen virtually as well. And well, the last P4G summit, it was held offline, of course, hosted by the city of Copenhagen in Denmark, which is known for its innovative ventures to go green. Now, what do you think South Korea brings to the table as the host nation of this year's summit?
Yeah, well, we see Korea providing great leadership by what it's doing both domestically and internationally. From announcements such as the Green New Deal, the pledge to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, and the commitment to end any new financing of coal power plants, alongside the announcement that it's going to build the world's biggest offshore wind farm. Korea's also made clear its intentions to support emerging countries in reaching their climate ambitions. Finance Minister Hong this week mentioned that Korea would increase its green share of official development assistance from 6% to over 20%. And these are all actions that demonstrate Korea's commitment to becoming a leader in sustainable growth.
And well, in the last few years, the turn towards a concerted effort towards sustainability in both public and private sectors has been seeing strides made despite the major challenges along the way that we've seen over the past few years. But well, for one, South Korea joined the list of 38 nations that officially declared a climate emergency. What do you think is South Korea's place in its efforts to address climate change on an intergovernmental level?
Yeah, Korea is really setting the precedent for other strong economies who have historically been reliant on climate negative technologies and inspiring them to make a similar transition, recognizing that it is one that benefits both the economy as well as the environment and the health of its population. And as one of the world's leading technology players, Korea's strong governmental policies and investments in the low carbon transition, including solar and wind, can show other nations the path forward, leading by example. And the P4G Summit is yet another tangible step that Korea is taking to encourage global solidarity and bring the international community together to tackle these issues multilaterally.
Now, countries around the world are pursuing a green recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and South Korea, the Green New Deal that you mentioned, is expected to explain what this is all about at this upcoming P4G summit. But what aspects of the Green New Deal stand out to you?
Yeah, well, what I love about the Green New Deal is that it sends a strong message that the Korean government is focused on ensuring that recovery improves its citizens' lives from both an economic as well as an environmental and social perspective. And that also aligns with long-term climate goals and long-term growth and stability for the nation, which is extremely strong and strategic choice. Another strategic choice that Korea is making is the focus on its e-mobility transition. Korea is already a leader in car manufacturing and battery swapping technology. So by ensuring that the Green New Deal has targets to increase the number of electric vehicles on the road, Korea is playing to its strengths while also making progress on its net zero commitments. And to ensure that this is all not just rhetoric and backed by action, Korea announced at the Green Future session this week that it's going to invest 3.8% of its GDP in Green New Deal projects, including green infrastructure, renewable energy, and green mobility.
And of course, partnership is the critical aspect of P4G's ambitious mission, which is really all about creating new relationships and to advance existing ones as well. But that must be no easy task. What are the current challenges to coordinating across the interests of stakeholders, and what makes for a successful partnership, do you think, that can really be resilient against these challenges?
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges faced by multiple stakeholders working in this field, and that's why our partnerships engage both civil society as well as private sector and governmental partners to work hand in hand to address these challenges. And a lot of the partnerships that we incubate and accelerate are high risk, high impact propositions. And we step in with the catalytic funding and advisory services to refine their business models and make them less risky and more attractive to the private sector to crowd in the kind of investment we need in order to see change in this sector. Over the past 3 years and across 50 partnerships, we found that the most successful partnerships really start with a solid business model or solid business proposition and a solid plan for implementation, and that they truly understand the market and the political environment of the country that they will implement in. And last but not least, each of our most successful partnerships has been led by an extremely resilient and innovative leader, because in this line of work, setbacks are inevitable. And the strong leaders are the ones who weather those setbacks well and think of creative but pragmatic ways to overcome them.
And of course, a key part of sustainability is also making it inclusive, and that's going to require quite a lot of low carbon energy to really power all these innovations and the technologies that we're going to need. And that's something you've been committed to over the years, working to make sustainable energy accessible, especially in communities where there is a need for development. What measures are critical to ensure that energy can be provided reliably and also affordably?
Yeah, absolutely. Inclusive and sustainable growth is what P4G is all about. And ensuring that our partnerships have the kind of green, innovative models that balance that triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. And there are currently over 600 million people around the world who lack access to any energy, let alone reliable and equitable energy. And as such, 15 of our 50 partnerships are focused on this topic. And I've spent the bulk of my career working on issues such as providing solar lights and battery charging to people who are located so far away from the central electricity grid that there's no chance of them getting any energy any other way. And also working on creating mini grids to serve these same types of populations. And this is where our civil society partners come in to provide that real credibility, legitimacy, and also to understand the needs of the people on the ground who are ultimately benefiting from these services that are provided. And we've seen huge growth in this sector, particularly around things like pay-as-you-go technology that rely on the mobile models and mobile technology that Korea is so well known for. So I really see lots of potential for us to overcome these issues in the coming decade.
And of course, it's all well and good for our countries to come together and talk about these partnerships and sustainable growth. But how do you get investors and businesses on board, though, and really convince them that going green is the way forward and that it's going to really help their bottom line?
Yeah, over the past 2 decades, we've seen several trends that have increase the amount of green growth in the private sector. Two of the big trends that have driven the private sector and major investment into green growth. The first is that the prices of some of these technologies have reduced dramatically alongside an increased level of availability and reliability of those technologies, like solar panels and wind. And the second main trend we've seen is the mainstreaming of business models where small startups working in green growth have been able to grow into major global corporations, such as the Spanish wind company Iberdrola. And we see these featured in Harvard Business Review and Business Week and other major global publications on what large corporations should be aiming for and what they should be envious about, and thus the kind of growth we're hoping to inspire. But we're a long way from having the amount of investment and the number of businesses focused on green growth that are needed to accomplish the climate goals, and that's why P4G exists.
And while the goals of P4G are very long-term commitments, of course, for a greener future, but on the other hand, we see all these fluctuations in political willingness or national capabilities, of course, they face limitations too, especially as countries naturally undergo changes, such as changes in leadership. What do you think really needs to be done to make sure that commitment to sustainability actually remains stable and on course?
I think it's important to drive home the message that job growth and climate action are ideas that go hand in hand. When we grow climate-smart business models, we not only grow jobs, but we also create a better working and living environment for people. So these ideas go hand in hand, and that needs to become part of our national and global cultures around the world. So, for example, a recent report by the International Energy Agency found that green investments create more jobs per dollar than do investments in fossil fuels. So, for example, their findings showed that by investing $2 trillion in clean energy, we could see 4.4 million energy sector jobs as early as 2023. And we also see that the general public supports a green recovery because they recognize that it's not only better for their health and income, it's better for the planet that we all live in.
And previously, we saw many governments try to initiate climate initiatives and projects, but what really is the importance of a more horizontal approach, having different actors join hands and be in this together?
Absolutely. Well, like any good approach, having a strong portfolio means that you have a stronger overall approach. So the more countries and the more companies working to diversify and come up with new ideas and new technologies and new policies to address the green growth that's necessary not only for recovery but for the climate goals, the better our longer term solutions will be and the higher the likelihood that we will not only meet our goals but exceed them and see the world swing back into balance as it also undergoes hopefully a transition towards a more equitable and economically beneficial future.
Absolutely. And what's quite exciting is that the recent summit between the leaders of South Korea and the United States, Presidents Moon Jae-in and President Joe Biden, they agreed on climate cooperation and green technologies. Is there anything that excites you in particular out of the sectors that they've agreed to cooperate on?
Absolutely. Well, my passion has always been in the energy sector, so I'm really keen to see that level of work increase. The energy sector and also in transportation. Those two sectors make up the majority of global greenhouse gas emissions. So seeing our two great economies come together and work on these issues, clean, green energy, and also clean mobility, clean transportation, is really exciting, and I think can lead to great things for diplomatic and trade ties between our countries.
Right, and the infrastructure plan by Mr. Joe Biden's office has created a lot of excitement around the world, and South Korea is also hoping to collaborate in that, hopefully. And well, I'm afraid we're out of time today, but that was Robyn McGuckin, Director of Partnerships of P4G. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you very much for watching.